Hi, my name's Jimmy Sexton, and I'm the president of Esquire Group. Welcome to our segment on expatriation. So expatriation, what is it? Well, expatriation is either relinquishing your U.S. citizenship or abandoning your long-term resident status. A long-term resident is someone who has been a green card holder or permanent resident of the United States for 8 of the last 15 years. So if you're a green card holder and you have been for the last 8 of 15 years and you abandon that green card, you're going to be considered to have expatriated. So what are the tax consequences of expatriation? Well, in order to determine what the tax consequences are, we first have to determine whether or not you are a covered expatriate. A covered expatriate is somebody that, one, has a net worth of more than $2 million, an average income tax liability of $160,000 or more for the 5-year period preceding the expatriation date. That $160,000 is adjusted for inflation, so it changes a little bit every year. Or somebody who fails to certify that they've been in compliance with U.S. tax laws for the 5 years preceding the expatriation date. If you're an uncovered expatriate, it's pretty simple. There's not really any tax consequences to expatriating. If you're a covered expatriate, on the other hand, there are going to be some potentially serious tax consequences. There's essentially 4 different tax consequences that you'll have to keep in mind if you expatriate as a covered expatriate. The first is a mark-to-market tax, basically a capital gains tax on all of your unrealized gains. Unrealized gains are gains built into assets that have appreciated but not yet been sold. So for example, assume you bought a house for $300,000, it's now worth $500,000, there's been a $200,000 increase in value, that's an unrealized gain. The IRS is kind enough to give an unrealized mark-to-market gain exclusion of $690,000. So essentially, if your total unrealized gains are under $690,000, you're not going to wind up paying any mark-to-market tax. Covered expatriates are also required to pay tax on most deferred compensation items as if they were distributed on the day before expatriating. And those will be taxed and included in your ordinary income normally. Deferred compensation items are things like IRAs, 401ks, pension plans, life insurance, things of that nature. There's also some potential gift and estate tax ramifications that you'll need to be aware of. So if a covered expatriate gives a gift or leaves an inheritance to a U.S. person, the person receiving that gift or inheritance is going to have to pay U.S. estate or gift taxes at the highest rate then in effect. Currently, this is 35%. This is a different treatment than normal. Normally, in the United States, it's the person giving the gift or inheritance that pays, but if you're a covered expatriate, it flips around and it's the person receiving the gift or inheritance that has to pay the tax. Once you've expatriated, you're going to have some final tax responsibilities to get out of the U.S. tax system. The first is you're going to be required to file a dual status tax return, basically a 1040 for the portion of the year that you were a U.S. citizen or long-term resident, and a 1040 NR for the portion of the year that you were not a U.S. citizen or long-term resident. You're also going to have to file Form 8854 to report your expatriation to the IRS. Failure to file Form 8854 will result in you continuing to be taxed as a U.S. citizen or long-term resident. If you continue to have any U.S. source income after expatriation, you're going to have to continue to file a U.S. income tax return to report only that U.S. source income. Also, your U.S. source income will likely be subject to withholding taxes after you expatriate, so things like interest, dividends, Social Security that you receive from sources within the U.S. will be subject to a flat withholding tax. Planning is very important when it comes to expatriation. Like I mentioned, some things are going to change once you've expatriated, and it's important to know what those things are. A couple examples of things that are going to change post-expatriation are the loss of your lifetime gift tax exclusion, the loss of your estate tax exclusion, and withholding taxes on U.S. source income. All of these things need to be planned for and understood prior to expatriation so you're not caught by surprise after your expatriation. Through proper planning, we're oftentimes able to minimize the effects of being a covered expatriate, and in certain circumstances, a lot of times we're able to take somebody who would otherwise be a covered expatriate and get them to an uncovered expatriate status, which obviously is favorable due to the decreased tax consequences. And finally, it's very important to ensure that you're in full tax compliance for the 5 years prior to expatriation. We've seen a lot of cases over the years where people are under the $2 million threshold, they're under the annual average income tax liability threshold, and would otherwise be a non-covered expatriate except for the fact that they haven't been in compliance with their US taxes for the past 5 years. So it's really important to make sure of that, because it's a simple step that someone could take to ensure non-covered expatriate status. I hope you found this segment informational. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll check out some of our other segments on our website.